It is 7 o'clock. This is an open meeting of the Acton Finance Committee. It is being conducted remotely. Consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth and the local emergency declared by the Acton Board of Selectmen and the Board of Health due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the Board of Selectmen has suspended all public meetings, and in accordance with the Governor's orders, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The Governor's order allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations and committee votes of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting, the Acton Finance Committee is being via Zoom app video conference. And there is a phone number as well. As posted in the meeting agenda, town's website calendar identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded, and some of the attendees are participating via video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you, and anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All materials for this meeting, except for executive session, we don't have anything published on DocuShare at this point. This meeting. We're going to now turn to the first agenda item, which is public comment. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, Roland Gordon, will introduce each speaker of the agenda if applicable. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. I don't know. If members wish to engage in colloquially with other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment as follows. The chair will first ask members of the public who wish to speak to identify their names and address only after the first being recognized by the chair, and will be afforded about 2 to 3 minutes of time for comments or questions, and that will be at the very beginning. Each vote will be taken by roll call, so we have an accurate meeting recording. I will, once I am not chair this evening, once we elect a new chair, the new chair will take over. Jason, you want to reach out to Adam? Maybe I thought he would have got the.
So I was curious, is he in the waiting room lobby? I know that sometimes people come in not as panelists, but as participants. Is he in the lobby? Let me see if I can get a hold of him.
We need to get him added to the mailing list properly.
Yeah, Steve Barrett and John Mangiarotti. We have had issues with that. Brian tried to get that resolved, as well as some other people. They say he's added, but he's not getting anything. Nothing's going to a spam folder, so I don't know what the issue is to me. Maybe he has to be removed from the shell and then added back in, but I don't know. So I think we need to work on that. Be looked into.
I think I sent him a panelist link, Mr. Chairman, but I'll double check that and we'll work on it.
Thank you.
I think you may have sent it to an email account that he does not necessarily have a password to yet. So looks like the town created an email account for him. So yet he doesn't have the password yet. So I just tried getting hold of him. It went straight to voicemail. I don't know.
Okay. All right. So we already see any members of the public raising their hand. So, Sahana, you want to address the committee?
Yeah, just for a minute.
Sure.
So I first wanted to start off by saying how much I really like working with all of you. and have really enjoyed being a part of the Finance Committee. I have always believed it is very important to have different points of view in the committee, and we should try to encourage that. It is something it's a very good thing. It's not something that needs to be avoided. I have always tried to put forward what I think is best for the town, and regardless of what I have with my personal views on any topic. Diverse views and diverse skills are what is needed on this committee, though I was recently told that corporate finance expertise is needed. I know I mentioned to a few of you that I might be interested in the clerk role this year, but after further thought, I have decided not to consider it for this coming year. Thanks for your time. This is all I wanted to let you all know. That's it.
Thank you. And I agree. I think we do need diverse backgrounds, and I think that makes us a stronger committee. Election of officers. Nothing here. So does anybody want to make a motion?
Sure, I'm ready to make a motion.
Go for it.
Chairman Borden, I nominate Christy Anderson for chair, Christine Russell for vice chair, and Adam Nolde for clerk.
Do I have a second? Anybody?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Christine?
Thanks. I just wanted to, just to Sahana's point, I think that she would be an excellent addition to the track. And I hope that with a year between us, she absolutely jumps on, because I think you bring a lot to this committee and a lot to the table. From my point of view, I think that complementing my strengths would be somebody with a strong financial background, especially given the next couple of years and the budget issues that I see. So I appreciate what you bring to the table a lot, and that's kind of why my initial leanings were towards somebody with a financial background at this time. Thanks. That's all.
I'd also, Mr. Chairman,
Jason?
I'd also like to echo that I do definitely think that Sahana brings a good, different view to the committee, as evidenced by the fact that she and I usually vote against each other. But I'm glad to hear. I'm glad to have different points of view, and I'm very glad to hear that she's interested in the future. So thank you, Sahana.
I also feel that everybody has a different view than Jason. It gets a better debate, and different point of views get brought to the table. I think that's what we need in this town, what we need in all government. We don't have to be mean to each other or anything like that. It's what, Mr. Wellinghoff.
Yeah, I'd agree with those comments, and I would add, I wouldn't look at not having much finance experience as a deterrent at all. I mean, people throughout all roles in town government, as well as finance committee, have varying levels, in some cases very minimal experience in finance. So it's certainly something you can learn, and you have experience on the committee already, and you're already digging into a lot of the other issues that we're doing. So I would look at that. This is my view, of course, but as a small thing, but certainly don't let it deter you from, being interested in the future. But I want to second the other comments, and I absolutely appreciate your viewpoints that you're bringing to the table. So thanks so far.
Christy and Mike.
Sahana stated support for diversity of experience is actually a lot of my support for having Adam Nolde on the executive committee, along with Christina and I, who have less, to various degrees, less formal financial experience. So that was part of my feeling about why we need to do this.
Mike.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of Sahana, and the diversity she brings to the board, or to the committee even today, is that she's very involved with community activities, Kelly's Corner and League of Women Voters. She knows what's going on in the town, and that's equally as important as a fancy MBA from some business school.
Fancy MBAs are fine too, though.
Yeah, we like those.
I don't have one.
Well, anyway, she, what she
I-
brings, some of these things are, as much moral as they are financial in analysis. And Sahana is ready today. She's paid her dues. She's ready. And, I can't wait for this to happen. That's my 2 cents.
So I think one thing I just want to point out too is we got to look at bringing on some new members as well. So anyway,
I just wanted to say that I don't have a fancy MBA, but I certainly do have a master's in statistics. So I know what I'm doing. So just putting it out there.
So no one's questioning that.
I don't
Yeah,
have
I
an
know.
MBA.
I just wanted to put it out there. Just
I
like
just want to make sure
everybody
there's.
sees. Yeah.
Anyway, so let's bring it to a vote. We have to do a roll call vote. So Christine Russell.
Aye.
Mike Majors.
Aye.
Jason.
Aye.
Steve Noon.
Aye.
Sahana.
Aye.
David. Calling
All
off.
right. All right.
Christine.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Before I yield, I did reach out to Chu Yu Lee, who used to be on the board with us. He cannot rejoin the board this time because his wife had a liver and kidney transplant in December. He's a primary caregiver, so he has to be very, very careful. But he said at some point he hopes to rejoin. He said that please say hello to everyone at the FinCom that I know, Steve, Mike, Dave, Jason, etc. So he wanted to say hello, and I can understand why he can't join us anymore for at least a time. So hopefully in the future, if we have an opportunity, that he will be able to rejoin. So at this point, we're actually looking for an associate member.
That said, if we do know anybody who's interested, please bring them to the chair's attention, and then to the town moderator. Steve, did you vote? Okay,
Yes.
good.
You did. So I will now. We have a town meeting recap, and I'll let Christy run that part since she is the new she's the new chair. Congratulations.
Hi, thank you. So at this point, we are going to talk about how we thought town meeting went, what was good, what was bad, anything we'd like to see changed. Would anyone like to start us off? Christine.
Just going to start off with some super kudos to the town manager and the staff and everybody who ran that event. And I didn't look at the indoor space, although I saw pictures. I was incredibly pleased with the outdoor space. And I think that given the circumstances, thank heavens we didn't get rain. But the whole thing went about as good as one could possibly have expected. So kudos to all for working so hard and ensuring everybody's safety.
Jason?
Ditto.
Roland?
So since we did it in one night this year, I'd like to see us be going forward more years than not. I know we might not be able to sit outside, especially in April, where historically it was right at the end of February or right at the beginning of April, where last time we left town meeting and it was April and it was cold. It was 30 degrees out. So I understand that, but I think it worked great. John and staff did a fantastic job. I think it worked really well, and we were able to put the finance committee point when we needed to, and did that, and I felt that went very smoothly, and Boris Selectman did a great job, and I like that big giant screen that we had outside. That was great, and it moved nice and quickly, and I appreciate that.
Jason?
I wanted to just follow on to what Roland just said. I also think that the Board of Selectmen deserve some kudos for keeping it short and sweet. I appreciate that they took as many of the potentially controversial things off the agenda as possible. And while I'm all for having nice short meetings, it is evident that this was a short meeting as a result of the changes that the Board of Selectmen did for taking off anything that might require extra conversation and for putting as much on the consent article as possible. So while I understand Roland's desire, I don't expect that every town meeting is going to be that fast. And thank you, Mr. Benson and your colleagues, for keeping it short and sweet during this unusual time that we have to deal with.
Roland?
So I don't know, like the revolving funds, I know they were on the consent this year, and I'm not sure if we had those in the past on consent.
No.
But I do.
They normally are on consent.
They what?
They're normally on consent.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't pay attention to that part of it before, but that was good. Thank you, John.
Yeah.
John?
Yeah, sure. I'd like to and thank the finance committee for for all pulling together and concise comments. It was a real effort across the board. I'd really like to commend John. Once we decided to go ahead with it, we got a lot of comments of concern that I don't want to go indoors. And he made a really smart pivot, and we called it the hybrid town meeting. We said, why can't we do an inside sitting and an outside sitting? And it worked to perfection. But to let you know, we were kind of torn, even going into Monday, because the weather forecast was so bad. Whether we should postpone it till the next week. But John brought to our attention that we'd have to pay for the whole thing over again. It was about a $30,000 cost to put all of that together. So, we made the decision, let's start it at 6 o'clock. And if the weather gets bad, we'll continue on Tuesday night. And if we need to, go into Wednesday night. But the costs were sunk, and we just put our heads down. But, all the credit goes to John.
Any other comments? Oh, Steve?
Yeah, I too would like to commend the Board of Selectmen and John for doing an outstanding job. I think we have to give some credit to our two moderators as well. I think Joanne and Bill did a very good job at handing off to one another based on the split operation. As having been on the town meeting improvement committee, among the things we recommended were more things on consent and shorter presentations. And I really think that the quality of the town meeting did not suffer in terms of the short presentations. I think they were concise, they were to the point, and from the number of questions we got, most people seem to grasp what the issues were. Granted, I'm sure there'll be something that will come up at the next town meeting that will require us to go to 2 nights just on discussion alone. But as a template for going forward, maybe without the hybrid system, if we can ever all meet indoors again, I think it served a very good purpose.
Steve, does your committee, the Town Meeting Improvement Committee, plan to do any sort of follow-up survey on this meeting to see what people's reaction was relative to some of the changes?
We were sunsetted as of the town meeting, so we don't really exist anymore. I was probably going to ask the town clerk to send me the Excel spreadsheet when she has it, so I can maybe check the demographics against who came out for this one versus who usually comes out for an annual meeting, see if there was any difference at all.
Okay. Sahana?
So I just wanted to echo all the sentiments that you guys did. It was a commendable job by the entire team. The town managers, selectmen, the moderators, everybody did a fantastic job. In fact, actually sitting outside and watching on the big screen, everybody looked great. It was something that, I would love to see the town do the same way going forward, if possible, instead of, if we can change the charter and not have the town meeting. This is something to consider. Not have the town meeting early April when the weather is really crappy. If we can, move it to early May, or mid-May, and have the option of inside and outside seating. It would probably attract more attendees to the town meeting. Just my thought, with all the comments that I've been reading and I've been listening.
Mike?
Yeah, I obviously echo what everyone else was saying. There are some very nice innovations to this town meeting. John and the board deserve kudos. I like the fact that a lot of the presentations were pre-recorded and therefore more efficiently presented with the words and any graphics that were needed. The fact that so many items were on consent made the meeting much more efficient. And it was good that they were addressed right up front to get them over with. Because usually they're the things that, 11 o'clock on the night, day 2 or 3, and you're worried about some, bookkeeping change on some zoning issue. With 10 people in the audience, you don't get too excited about. The other thing I was also disappointed at was it seemed that there was less than 300 people at town meeting, and that's never a good thing. It's not, representative of not the way things should happen. And obviously there were extenuating circumstances, but still less than 300 is not good. The warrant still has to come out earlier. And just thinking about there's going to be another special town meeting coming up sooner versus later, and we have to make a decision if it's going to be inside, outside, or hybrid. And the weather at that point could be more problematic than it is. Although spring weather is kind of unpredictable. Late fall could also be the same. It could be 98 degrees, or it could be chance of snow. So we just have to be prepared, and they need to start their planning today. But again, we can have to continue to work on getting attendance levels up. That's my 2 cents.
I was impressed with attendance levels, considering I was extremely grateful to not have to decide whether I would come or not. I was very uncomfortable with the idea of coming if it was going to be entirely inside. I also enjoyed the party isn't the right word, but the energy of being outside with the music. It was more of a town feel, seeing people saying hi to each other in a different way than they do in the auditorium when everyone's filing in.
Yeah, the other thing, I enjoyed Jason's tent. Thank you, Jason.
Yes. Anything else? Dave, did you get to speak?
Agree with everything. Thank you.
And do we have any other improvements that could be made for next year or September?
I would keep the annual town meeting the annual. Thank you.
Yes. Jason?
I'd like us to request that the DPC automatically be handled as a consent article. So we didn't do that this time, but in years past we have. I would like to have seen us go down the list and be able to hold an individual component rather than have to vote on the entire article up and down.
All right, department updates. Mr. Barrett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have developed a short presentation. John, do you want me to give that little presentation for the FinCom, or do you want to spin through it?
Yeah, I can. I'll share my screen and I'll run through it with just some quick updates on. So we've made several presentations to the Finance Committee over the last few months, and nearing town meeting, we were reporting on revenue estimates, and we just wanted to sort of close the loop on FY20. While it's not final, it has ended, so we have a better sense of where we're going to end up. So I just want to walk through some of that with all of you. Let's see, share screen. So, slide 20, revenues and expenses. So as this is a slide that we've shown a few times and we've updated it based on the returns. As of today, we're at 99.3% of real estate taxes. Thank you, residents and businesses of Acton, for coming through for us. We were worried about motor vehicle. It turned out to be okay. We hit our budget for that, which is good news. And we were just shy by a very small amount on what we were projecting for local revenue from permits and fees. And investment income was right on target. So overall, we were optimistic, and it turned out to be a year where we probably would have ended up with a surplus if things hadn't changed with the pandemic. But fortunately, we had such a strong year otherwise that all of our revenues are in pretty good shape. So I just wanted to share that update. And then on the expense side, we were targeting around a $1 million turnback just to make sure we could offset any revenue shortfalls. Fortunately, as I mentioned, there aren't any significant revenue shortfalls. So where we are today is we had about a 3.75% general fund turnback, which is about 1.3 million. That was gained through a hiring freeze, which left several positions unfilled and their wages unspent, and also a spending freeze that had been in place since early March, where we had spent money on things that weren't emergency related or public safety. And a lot of the spending that we did do was reimbursable through FEMA or otherwise. And we did close buildings and had some limited savings from utilities, but not much. And then just an update on the COVID-19 impacts from a financial standpoint. Not much has changed since last time, but we do have some minor adjustments where the actual as of right now is 390 in expenses for PPE, staffing and overtime, technical assistance, cleaning. A lot of the town meeting expenses are included in that. We have town meeting that costs money every year, but then the incremental cost to run it the way we did, we were able to charge to COVID as a COVID expense. And we've also been outfitting our offices and continue to do so to make them safer to operate in our newer normal environment that we expect to see in phase 4 of the Commonwealth's reopening plan as we start to talk about reopening and reintroducing public access to our buildings. And we have submitted funding requests to FEMA in the amount of $267,000. We still haven't heard back on this $100,000 firefighter grant, and the direct sourcing of hygiene supplies and PPE has that stopped. We're not getting much from them anymore, but we did get quite a bit over the first few months of the pandemic, where they were providing us boxes and boxes of masks and other supplies. And now we are purchasing them on our own, and then using FEMA and CARES Act funds to cover the cost of those things. The CARES Act fund, as you all know, we are eligible to use just under 2.1 million in fiscal year 20 and 21. What we ended up requesting, so basically how this works is we have to identify what we want to spend the money on and then ask the state to release the funding, and they have to make sure that it's CARES Act eligible. So we have 295,000 of expenses that were CARES Act eligible in FY20. This includes reimbursable services, reimbursable expenses that are totally reimbursable, like legal, financial, technical assistance, the Zoom position that we're hiring hopefully tomorrow to help with our Zoom resources for all of our public meetings. It also covers money that we're requesting to supplement the way FEMA works, because the way FEMA works is we put in a request for reimbursement, and they'll give us 75%. So what this 130,000 shown here is a 25% of FEMA expenses that we want to get the full reimbursement for. And then we've also are using 50,000 for rent. Successful. We didn't go through.
You're on mute.
Seem to have lost you.
Yeah, something just happened. Am I back?
Yes.
My presentation's gone though.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, let me try to get it back. All right, how's that? All right, we're back. We had initially hoped to use this funding for a small business grant program, and it was deemed to be not an eligible expense, so that is no longer reflected in here. We are, however, still hoping to hear good news on a different CARES Act program targeted for micro enterprises, which is businesses of less than 5 people with certain income requirements, and also public services organizations. We applied as part of a 5-town region for $400,000 to Acton to help support micro enterprises and public service organizations. We were hoping to hear by now whether we were successful with that funding request. So hopefully we'll hear soon, and we'll let the Finance Committee know if we are successful with that. So that's sort of just the quick hit updates on some of the things we've been talking about over the last few weeks, just to make sure that you have the latest information. And it looks like my internet is messed up, so I think I'll stop now. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Benson, are there any updates you'd like to deliver from the Board of Selectmen? Oh,
I'm sorry. I was listening throughout the meeting, and there were a lot of people that thanked me for the work at town meeting. I just want to clarify that the work that went on to make town meeting happen was, I was involved with it, but there was a lot of people that played a much larger role in making that successful. So I want to make sure that Mark Hall and Matt Frost and Eva and all the other people that, there was 20 plus people working that day from town hall to make sure that went smoothly. So I'm really proud of the work that people have done there in the election and town meeting to step up and help make for a successful event. So I appreciate the accolades, but I'd like to share them as much as I can.
Please do.
Thank you.
Sure. With BOS updates, 2 items to report from last evening. The CPC met last night and unanimously approved the Piper Lane land acquisitions. I'm not sure they exactly made a decision on how to finance it, but it would likely be the $1,150,000 would be split equally between open space fund set aside on hand monies and with bonding the remainder. And they will be coming to you at some point this summer to present and hopefully get your positive recommendation for the article. The town meeting should be scheduled sometime in September, or I hope the early part. And then the Zoning Board of Appeals gave their tentative go-ahead to the application for the Powder Mill Apartments. That's 230 rental units, which will put us over the 10% threshold based on the 2010 census. They've set Tuesday, August 4th for a final vote. They were there's a host of conditions that they're attaching to it, and they want to make sure that those are all straight. But that was really good. That was unanimous vote.
Jason?
Mr. Benson, does that renew the safe harbor period that we were in already? Is that a significant enough? Are those 230 units a significant enough change that we could renew our safe harbor period?
No, I had the same thought that could you tack it on, But as I understand it, that puts us into the 40, the 10% safe harbor, which is where everybody wants to get. The problem is that we're running up against the 2020 reset number. The efforts are now going into gaining support for the 446 Massachusetts Avenue project. Those are also called residences at Kelly's Corner. That's not the talk of the 200 luxury units that were bandied about, but just the 31 senior affordable and disabled housing. What we need to show is some additional town support for the project. $500,000 is going in to support it, and that is through monies that Concord paid us as a remediation payment when they built Concord Views for the use of Acton roadways. And there's about $250,000 in in-kind contributions. The Department of Housing and Community Development said, well, the $500,000 really isn't town money by our standards, and the $250,000 is not cash per se, but in kind. We have to. We're dealing with it at our next select board meeting on the 20th. The pilot payment. That's payments in lieu of taxes. With any nonprofit that owns property, they're exempt from local property taxes, like Harvard and MIT are exempt from property taxes in Cambridge. What they do have to pay to the municipality is this payment in lieu of taxes. The developer, Mr. Jonkus, who also did the old high school project, wanted to make a payment of $18,000 a year. I'm not sure if that's set for 20 years or that's in perpetuity. I think Brian McMullen is going to tell us that an appropriate payment in lieu is closer to $50,000. So we've got to, personally, we've got to get that project through. So, I would go, support the request for $18,000 from the developer, and even go below it if that's going to help him and put him over the top, because it's a very competitive process to get state funding. This is not a privately funded project like Powder Mill.
Mike?
When you talk about, John, the senior housing, you're talking about Main Street, the Kennedy property, correct?
No, I'm talking about the Mass Ave property.
Oh, okay.
That's one across. That's 446. Also called Residences at Kelly's Corner. It's very similar in that it's 31 units and.
Oh, and it's behind Kmart, right?
Behind Kmart,
right.
Bordering on Mass Ave.
Right.
Wasn't that approved 2 years ago?
They got their comprehensive permit in 2018, yes, but they're getting state funding, and that's a multi-year process. It's a good 3-year cycle. You don't usually get it the first time. They didn't get it the first time. We were upset in the June round of funding. They didn't get it. Concord got their project because Concord could offer $2 million in town funding to support the project. So there's apparently there's a supplemental round to take place in either August or early September. So that's what we're getting on now. And we're meeting on Monday night with Mr. John, because he'll be appearing before the ACHC.
Mike, continue.
Yeah, I would like to get an update on that housing plan for Main Street. I understand that housing group is having trouble getting funding, and since the town is already losing a lot of money on that site, the Main Street committee bent over backwards to accommodate them even though it meant, I took a lot of grief from a lot of people because we were losing money on this. And now I understand they can't get their funding. So the whole purpose of turning that project over to them was that they promised they would be moving. It should have almost been under construction now.
No.
If you
I
look at the
commend you for
calendar, you would say.
I commend you for the courage to support the project. It's similar to 446 Mass Avenue. It's a state-funded project. It's a good 3-year cycle in the making to get funding. There's work now on an easement across the property of the Davis Lane abutters that we're taking up at our meeting on the 20th. But it's a lot of work. What they had asked is just so I'll be clear with you. When we approved the transfer of the land from the town to the housing authority in 2019, the housing authority said we're going to have to come up with $1.5 million of outside funding, and in approving the project, we tacitly said that $500,000 would come from CPC funds, and that was voted at town meeting. I have the understanding now that they will be back in 2021 and 2022 for initial funding of $500,000 a year.
Okay.
But the project is moving along. But keep in mind it is different from Powder Mill, the Avalon projects, and those are privately funded through traditional bank lending.
Roland.
No, I was just wondering who was developing the property, if it was the town of Acton or if it was an outside developer, that's all. So John already answered it, so.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions? Christine?
John, is the Piper Lane purchase, is all of that, all 3 parcels involved with that? Are they planned to be turned over to Great Hill or included in Great Hill? Is that the plan for those?
Well, the parcel that we always wanted was there's 3 Magoon parcels, and it's Piper. I think it's Piper Lane 4R. That's the rear parcel. It's 5+ wooded acres, and then there's the Magoon house parcel, and then there's a little pinch parcel. Those are a little more than an acre. Mrs. Magoon will be leaving. The house will be vacant. It's a question of what we'll do with the house. I mean, there was some discussion because we were losing in the purchase 7 affordable ownership units, whether on that parcel we would build 1 or perhaps 2 affordable units, whether in doing so we rehabilitate the Magoon house and turn that into one of the parcels or just take it down. But that's nothing we discussed in any detail. That's for future conversation. But yeah, the back 5 parcels the back 5 acres would become part of Great Hill, owned by the town.
Anyone else? Oh, Roland.
So John, it's not similar to the other parcel. I forget the house, the people who owned it. What was it? Which one, John?
That was the Gable parcel that we
parcel,
with
right.
when we were together on the CPC in 2008.
So is this near that property as well?
It abuts it, yeah.
Okay, so is there a plan where we did that with the Gable property, where we carved out the back acreage, kept that, and then sold off the house? Is that a possibility to do something like that and keep the house so that it stays as a single residence and not multiple?
That's certainly an option. If you remember that, we ran in rezoning the property, we ran into some difficulties that we didn't anticipate.
Yeah, because we lost the frontage. But-
Yeah. A 5-acre parcel was zoned in a different way when we split the 1-acre parcel off. It lacked frontage as a standalone. Yeah.
Right. So this is different though, because this is more than one piece of property.
Yeah. See, what we had to do to make this work, and Dean will, when he presents to you, will explain it in probably greater detail. It's what we purchased were the 3 Magoon parcels plus a 40-foot right of way on the eastern side of the 90 School Street parcel, which would give the Magoon parcel street access. If we were going to build something, whether it's 1 houses or 2 houses there, you would need that access. What we didn't buy was the 90 School Street parcel. The developer's holding on to that. Part of the arrangement is he will get a building permit to build a house not more than 2,200 square feet. It was a very complex transaction that took a lot of patient efforts to make work. And a key thing, in addition to the 5 back acres, we were advised by town council that if the matter proceeded through a ZBA determination, even if ZBA would have denied the comprehensive permit on appeal, that would have been tipped over by the Housing Appeals Committee, and the project would have been able to go forward. So that was a key determination in our minds when we put it together. It was not a winner.
Christine?
As to the September town meeting, I understand that we, in theory, have also a December town meeting.
Not to my knowledge. I don't think anything would be on board for December. What we would likely have on in September would be the change of name for the select board. We took that off of last week's meeting, and John probably has several other articles that he took off. We were originally on for about 40 articles, and it was reduced to 31. So maybe some of those 9 may go on in September, but there's no immediate plan for a December meeting. There's no building.
Well, originally, when you all talked about pushing some articles, you talked about pushing them to the December town meeting. So that was what I was going to encourage you to do, is please, any other business we need to do for this year, try to do it at the September meeting when we have the option to have people outside, because I don't think we're going to be in a position to have people clustered inside in December. So
no, the December meeting would basically have been preempted because we have a September 30 commitment to complete the land acquisition.
Okay, that's right.
So we'll move everything up to September. I don't anticipate there would be anything on for December, so we'll look forward to April.
When do you expect to know more about the funding for the Piper Lane properties?
I believe CPA was going to be meeting with Steve and the town finance people how best to do it.
Okay, so we should get in touch with them, because if we're looking at September, they need to come before us.
Oh, they'll be, that's that. We had to get over the hurdle before we came to you folks. We had to get over the hurdle of CPC that whether they were going to endorse it, and they did unanimously in one meeting.
Jason?
I was just going to say what you just said, which is let's make sure to get them in front of us as soon as possible.
Anyone else? No? Okay. unfortunately, I had some questions from Steve Barrett regarding when we should set up our next meeting.
Can I make a request
Yes, please.
about that? Thank you. Now that the Board of Selectmen are back to meeting on Monday nights, I would very much like us to go back to meeting on Tuesdays because I'm missing a school building committee currently, and school building committees were set to be on Wednesdays so as not to interfere with the Finance Committee, and that all got changed when the Board of Selectmen decided to make sure they could see the Board of Health. But now that proximate problem has been resolved, I'd like us to go back to Tuesday.
Do we need a motion for this? Does anyone?
No, you get to schedule the meeting when you darn please.
Is that good for everyone? I know Mike approves of it. Roland, Tuesdays? Dave? Okay. Let's meet on Tuesdays. Is 2 weeks too soon?
Normally, I would say no, but given the fact that we have a September town meeting, I think we kind of have to get going.
I'm also hoping that we'll have heard something more about the state's budget, since last I heard was that was still somewhat up in the air. So why don't we schedule one, and we can always cancel it if it's getting close to time. We don't have anything specific. Contact me if there's anything you'd like to have added to the agenda or any specific requests around that. Christine?
Does anybody think that it's appropriate within this committee to bring in maybe somebody from the water district for an update, given the letter that went out to families? We don't really monitor the water district's budget in any way. However, we did have reason to have input on, say, the water dispute with Concord over Nagog, and I feel like maybe having a better understanding of the situation behind our water would be a useful thing for this committee to have.
Roland?
So I tried to schedule a meeting with them before in the past and had no luck. Oh, yeah, we want to do it. We can't do it. We can do it next month. And then it was like, oh no, we're too busy. We can't. And never got scheduled. So if you can get them to commit, absolutely. And my neighbors are furious. It wasn't, when you look at parts per trillion, okay, you can't just put a filter. My wife is a chemical engineer, I know this. You can't just to get that. It's a chemical. You can't get it to get those. It's not PFAS is not one specific chemical. It's multiple. It's like 40 different chemicals. And the only way to treat it has to be treated chemically. So you can't put a filter in your house that will take care of this. My neighbor thought she could, another neighbor, but long story short. So it wasn't that it's there, and the problem is that they've known about this for like 5 years. This state mandate came out about 5 years ago. Nothing's been done about it. And it was the way that it was communicated to the town. And if you live in a different zip, it is 02169 is the other one. 02169 versus 02070. They didn't get notified. Oh, we missed that. So it was, in my opinion, it was done haphazardly. It wasn't professional. Borderline negligent. That, this is no big deal. We're working on it. Well, that seems like why the other two wells are down, instead of saying, when they said, they're down for maintenance and you couldn't get parts or something. So basically that was a lie. And I feel where the town's been duped. And I don't feel they did their due diligence. And, they're a separate entity. What did they do if the whole town citizens said, hey, you didn't tell us about this, we're not going to pay our water bill. Now what are you going to do? We couldn't operate that way as a finance committee. Steve Barrett's office couldn't operate that way as the finance department of the town, or John's office as the management of the town. So I think that there's a lot of answers they need to answer to this town and give us the straight on it. And what are they doing about it? Well, we're studying it. Heck, I could say that about a million things in town will get studied. We study till the cows come home. They need to come up with a concrete plan on how they're going to solve this issue and get it done as soon as possible. And I think somebody needs to be held accountable.
I agree with that entirely. However, we are the finance committee. Can you give me a good argument just to present to them for why they should come speak to the finance committee?
What's the financial impact of this whole thing? How much is it going to cost the ratepayers of the water? We're already paying for the treatment facility, whatever it is. and how much more we're gonna have to pay to take care of this issue that should have been already addressed.
Sahana?
So I agree with all the sentiments, and I think it is very important to have a conversation with the water district. So one of the things that I've heard from a lot of people, and people are upset, they are angry, and every right for every citizen to know what's happening more, because I know this issue has been going on for a while, and we were told that it was under 20 the limits that were allowed, and all of a sudden in April, I think the North Acton well tested above 40, and it is, though EPA says that this is fine, it's not good according to the state standard. So my argument is this: we need to be concerned. Is this something that which is going to grow as big as what happened in Flint, Michigan? And are we going to hear of things that people might come up with cases and stuff that might impact the town financially? So I think it is a good idea to have a conversation with the water district, and I would ask them based on that, at least my little knowledge.
Christine?
So I just wanted to add that I think back when we were still discussing the water rights in Concord as far as the use of NAGOG, I distinctly remember a gentleman from the water district talking about our aquifers, our water supplies, and how far down the line NAGOG was as far as water security for Acton. So I want to understand more about that, especially in light of the fact that we currently have an issue with 2 of our water sources. And I think it does lead us to make decisions on whether or not we support or not, for the financial health of the town, certain steps that the Board of Selectmen need to take or along those lines. So I feel that we should have a conversation with them.
Yeah, isn't there a former finance committee member and junior town moderator on the water board that could maybe address some of those issues for us?
That you're talking about, I think, Bill Mullen.
Yes.
He may have been, I don't know if he is now, on the finance committee of the water district. He's not a commissioner. If you go on the Green Acton website, there's a very good explanatory piece on the, you pronounce it PFAS issue, which is, I guess, many towns and water districts throughout the state are dealing with now. It's not just unique to us. It's a serious problem. Check the article out.
Thank you. Mike?
Just a follow-up question to that. Now, why do we have to go to Green Acton and not the town of Acton or the Acton water department to get that information? Green Acton.
I thought I know
it's helpful, but I'm just asking.
Yeah, I mean,
why.
Green Acton is a citizen group. The water district had sent out a piece last week on it. That I think went to all households.
They sent out a very unmemorable, very trashable piece of paper that if you happen to flip through, you might find the page that says, if you have open cuts, don't use our water. So it was not helpful.
Regarding that, Christine asked if I had seen it, and I hadn't found the paper. So I was disappointed to not find any information on the town's website or the water district website regarding this. It must have been there somewhere.
It was tweeted out. I can't remember if it was tweeted out by the water district or by the town, but I believe the town forwarded out something from the water district. Is that correct, Mr. Mangiarotti?
Yeah, we also posted the notice that was mailed to all households on our website with a link to Acton Water District. We did that on Monday, which was probably before many people received it in the mail, because Chris Allen or Matt Mosteller explained to me that when they did the townwide mailing, they mailed it to all postal customers, but the way the post office does things is they did one zip code, one sub zip code one day, and then another one 2 days later, another one 2 days later. So that's why some people got it and others didn't. I think eventually everyone received it. And if they didn't, hopefully they found it on our website or on the Acton Water District's website.
Thank you. Now, I know the water district is separate from the town. Could someone please remind me how exactly that works?
Well, it goes back to 1912, when the I think it was the West Acton Water District was chartered by the state as a separate entity, and it's remained that way for the last 100. And then it became a town-wide water district. I think it was in 1942, and it just has remained that way. And there's not been any push to bring the town. What do you got there, Mike?
The communication from Acton Water District, yeah, it's on page 2 and 3 about the PFAS.
But
So
it's sort of a mix of, this is still within EPA regulations, don't worry
Not
too
page
much,
1.
but don't drink it if you're nursing,
Right.
or if you've got to open a scrape, or it's a little difficult for somebody to know how to take that pamphlet.
But the current problem, not to be taken lightly, the water district is, you know, one of the top water districts, certainly in the eastern United States, and probably one of the top ones in the country. So it normally does a very good job, and there's never been any push to create the necessary legislation to make it an entity of the town. It's functioning.
There is a call-in user that has their hand raised.
My inclination is that they missed public participation time, so I'm not taking
I
it.
know at Parentstown, they just bought they sold their water company at one point, they just bought it back last year. So, control their own destiny, so to speak.
Jason?
I'm worried about this question coming across callous. Is it a good thing that the water district is its own separate entity? Because God forbid if there ends up being litigation, or there ends up being suits or cancer clusters or whatever, is it a good thing that the town is not on the hook versus the water district itself? Does anyone know?
Steve?
It can't hurt. However, in past legal disputes with the EPA, I think the town has wound up, and John can correct me on this, filing legal actions on behalf of the water district because they couldn't. So
If they're not under our control,
basically it was to enforce our bylaw, but it's a tricky relationship,
to say the least.
Thank you. We have no minutes to review, as I understand at this point in time. Are there any liaison reports? No? Okay. I would, as I said, recommend that we meet again in 2 weeks on the Tuesday. We will get that all set up and send out an agenda for it. And other than that, Mr. Nolde isn't here, so I believe Sahana.
I just wanted to ask, are we going to go through the liaison list the next meeting to see the assignments? maybe, if somebody wants to drop off, somebody wants to take on a committee or a board.
Certainly.
If we should do.
Let me add a note about that.
The agenda's coming together for you already, Christy.
Mike had an announcement about the Big
Yes.
Bird.
Mike, would you please share? You're on mute.
You're going to start seeing some yard signs that say, be kind, Acton, as I think gear up our celebration of Carol Spinney now that this crisis is sort of under control. I'm going to be hounding the Kelly's Corner people and John Benson and Dean Charter with some strategies about Acton and Carol Spinney, so be prepared. Thank you very much.
Anything else? Do I hear a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Christine,
Aye.
Roland,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
Sahana,
Hi.
Steve,
Aye.
Jason,
Aye.
Dave,
All right.
and I say aye. Thank you, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you.